Kudash, 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 Adonai, Elohim, Sabaoth, meaning holy, 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 Lord of hosts. That is the prayer that the angels sing day and night. It can be said as a mantra 3 times. Yah, He, Va, He. Those 4 syllables and sounds could be said as a mantra and also unlock a divine frequency. The first Yah signifies the divine masculine, the Father who art in heaven, Abba, the architect of the universe, divine masculine. He signifies a divine feminine, Mother Nature, the earth, the womb of the earth where mankind was created and impregnated and formed. Va signifies divine masculine, which is mankind itself. In the beginning, Elohim, meaning plural, more than one, said, let us create them in our image. In the beginning, Elohim said, let us create them in our image, which is Va, a divine masculine. It signifies us, the creation. And back to He, which signifies mother wisdom, which is a divine feminine that correlates with the first He of Mother Nature, which is mother wisdom, Anna Chokma. As above, so below. The macro prosophis above and the micro prosophis below, because we are the microorganisms in the host of the Elohim. That's why it says, holy, 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 Lord of hosts. All right, today we're going to be getting into this book right here. It's called Sacred Secrets of Esoteric Christianity. And I read some interesting stuff in here which correlates with stuff that I've been saying. For these last week or two, I've been pondering on what information am I going to bring out. And, I wasn't forcing it. I just kept reading, book. What I do is I read multiple books. I read a couple chapters out of this book in the day. I read another couple chapters out of another book, out of multiple books. I'll highlight them, and then I'll meditate on them, and then I'll try to connect dots and try to find a consistency and pattern. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I have to do more research and study to find it. But something said go into this book, I just needed something more inciting and intriguing. So I bought this book a while ago, so I just started reading it. And on this page, it's talking about the Gnostics. And now I'm going to read this and break down how all this stuff correlates with all the last lessons that I've been teaching, and all the stuff that I've been teaching is out of multiple spiritual texts and books, reading precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little, there a little. And that doesn't just go for the Bible, because the Bible is made up of 66 books that were canonized by the Roman Catholic Church. They added and take away, like Revelation says. Anybody that adds into this book, I'm going to add into them the plagues in which I talked about in this book. Anybody that takes away from this book, I'm going to take away their portion from the book of life, as written, So they're apocryphal book. Apocrypha means hidden. It is a Greek word that means hidden, As I started to learn Hebrew, you have to look at a lot of definitions. So in the process of looking at these translations and definitions, these words that we see in English, which English is a broken language that is a multitude of multiple languages, which is not a pure language. Hebrew is a pure language. That's why the sounds of the alphabet in Hebrew can be used as a divine frequency, which correlate Aleph, Bayat, Gamal, Dalet, He, Va, Zayn, Hayat, Tet, Ya, Ka, Lamed, Meme, Nun, Sameth, Ayin, Pei, Tezadeh, Qua, Resh, Shin, Ta, which is 22. And another thing in these translations, when you look up the word Torah, which means the law, that's where you get the word tarot from, like the tarot cards that people think are so bad. Tarot, rotas, tarot means the wheel of the law. And there are 22 cards, arcana cards in a tarot deck. But you see how it correlates? The tarot cards originated off of the Hebrew alphabet, the symbols. The symbols correlate with the star constellations. The angel language is in the constellations and the stars. Just like the Messiah said. She said, you will know from the signs and wonders. There are signs and wonders in the heavens and the constellations, you know. He said in the end time, you will find signs in the sun, moon, and the stars, you know. Just like Revelation 12 talks about a constellation. When you go into the 6th and 7th book of Moses, when he cursed his birthday, in the 6th and 7th book of Moses says he cursed his constellation, you know, because your constellation, your zodiac is what brings your time in measure, the astrological influence upon man, you know, based to planetary alignments as above, so below, you know. When certain constellations and planets align, it creates a force in an influence energy that affects how mankind adapts on Earth. That's by your zodiac. That's how you find your guardian angel through your time and measure. And, you know, every zodiac sign, I think it is 3 or 4 days in a zodiac calendar, there is a different angel as a guardian angel. Being that I am a Virgo, I was born in 9th month, 19th day, 90th year. My angel, my guardian angel name is Midadel. And Midadel is 36 on the chart. Like I said before, these numbers don't lie. 3 and 6 make 9. That's why this esoteric knowledge is very important to the exoteric, the physical, external, you know, where people take literal when they read the Bible. What this book is talking about stuff that they took out of the Bible, the esoteric, the secret teachings of Jesus, the Messiah, you know, and what it was really talking about in these scriptures, you know. And like I said, you know, the constellations, they have an astrological influence upon man. And these words, like I was telling people in other videos, just like I told you, Torah is where the word tarot comes from. Just like when it says sorcery in the Bible, most people think it's talking about magic or witchcraft or something, you know. But these words are spells. So it's key that you know what these words is and what you say, because there is power of life and death in the tongue, and words are spells. That's why when I tell you, when you say the Hebrew alphabet and no certain sounds, they are syllables and mantras, you know. That's why you see the Buddhist monks humming stuff, you know. They like ta sat. Ta sat mean as above, so below, the absolute truth, you know. The absolute essence, you know. It talks about the divine masculine, divine feminine, how spirit is to matter, and how the cosmos is to nature, you know, because everything revolves in duality. I know I'm talking fast because it's a lot of information that needs to be covered in ground, but I'm gonna jump right into this right now, you know. I'm gonna just read it. It says, now, see, watch how this correlates with everything I've been saying. And I got that information out of a multitude of other books and just taking notes and just letting my spirit put it all together. It says the ancient Gnostics were pragmatic, seekers of knowledge and wisdom through human experience. Remember, I was going into the greater and lesser keys of Solomon, and it tells you about how you figure things out by experimenting. You know, you experiment on things, you know, you do these experiments and practice until you figure it out and how it works in the natural science of nature. I'm just making sure my phone's still on. It says the ancient Gnostics were pragmatic seekers of knowledge and wisdom through human experience. It's common sense. But a lot of people, common sense is not too common to people. People take something simple and they make it into something complex. But they actually take the things from their natural order and take them out of context, and they put their own spin and twist on it to fit their narrative and their agenda to whatever religious sect, institution, and ideology that they're trying to push. But I get straight to the point, the meat and bone. The ancient Gnostics were pragmatic seekers of knowledge and wisdom through human experience. The principles taught by Jesus were more significant to them than the man himself. The historical actuality of Jesus was not of considerable importance. Their main preoccupation, their only guide and ideal was the mystical and mythical Christ. The mystical and mythical Christ. So basically, what was the purpose of Christ? You know how Christians say they are to be Christ-like. It says, to the Gnostics, the laws of God, our relationship to truth and reality were more significant than the personality of the exponent of those discoveries. To them, the second coming of Christ occurs mystically within one's own mind. What have I been saying? The Christ consciousness, the Kundalini rising from your lower chakra, your lower self, lower vibrations, to your higher self of awareness, to your crown chakra. Once you open the pineal gland, the third eye, the Christ consciousness, the divine spark goes off when. To them, the second coming of Christ occurs mystically within one's own mind. Gnostics like Basilides and Valentinus Marcion were influential in shaping Gnostic thinking. Gnosticism, like many other cults and societies, resulted in several schisms due to disagreements in truth interpretation. Human intelligence cannot comprehend absolute truth. What was I just saying? Things people really take literal. The Bible is written in metaphors, allegories, parables, figurative language. It's a book of codes, to be deciphered. That's why this is saying this. That's why they took these esoteric teachings away. But if I figured that out without even reading this book, all I did was follow consistency and patterns of multiple spiritual texts, and I figured that out. It says human intelligence cannot comprehend absolute truth. Relative facts have the peculiar property of providing many aspects of absolute truth that appear true from one perspective, erroneous from another, and irrelevant from still another. Certain Gnostic manuscripts, including the Gospels of Thomas, were unearthed in Egypt, which original name is Mitzrayim in ancient Kemet, in Egypt in 1945 at Nag Hammadi. This book is a collection of Jesus' sayings, and some academics regard it as the major source of Jesus' sayings recorded in the four canonical Gospels. We will briefly review some of the sayings found in the Gospels. Right here, it's saying, blessed is the lion which a man eats, that the lion becomes a man. But cursed is the man who a lion eats, so that the man becomes a lion. Gospel of Thomas, sayings, number 7. The meaning of this saying is similar to the sayings number 116. Cursed is the flesh that dependeth on the soul, and cursed is the soul that dependeth on the flesh. Abed saying number 116. The carnal self or bestial element within man is frequently shown as a lion. This is symbolism was widely used by alchemical writers in the past, consuming a lion is a process of transmuting and sublimating man's baser instincts. This is consistent with the evolutionary needs suggested by man's spiritual nature's higher impulses, allowing animal tendencies to govern and tyrannize the higher qualities of our being. On the other hand, is to metaphorically be swallowed by the lion by allowing its persona to be projected upon our real self. In some ways, this is similar to worshiping an idol, a false god who misleads man's senses and consciousness within the maze of Maya. Man should identify with his Atma, his spiritual nature, rather than believing that his lower principles and their cravings are his reality. Attachment to the flesh causes anguish and grief, and man is cursed by such conditions that bind his soul to the wheel of life and reincarnation, as Gautama the Buddha compassionately pointed out to us. You can find consistency and patterns in all of these spiritual texts. But let's keep going on, As a means of escaping the conflict within, the Spirit, this great messenger of God, provided us the eightfold road. Christ gave us the first commandment to love, which is lived and applied within our thoughts and feelings, would yoke the fragment to a whole. Remember, I was telling you in the other video, I said when the two become one, this is how you unlock the power to be able to do the things that Christ did and be Christ-like, like tell a mountain to move and it moves, being in tune with nature. It says it's basically telling you the same thing right here. It says, as a means of escaping the conflict within, the Spirit, this great messenger of God, provided us the eightfold road. Christ gave us the first commandment to love, which, if lived and applied within our thoughts and feelings, would yoke the fragment to a whole, when the two become one, basically. Blessed is the man who has labored, he has found life. Abid saying number 63. The objective consciousness of man is dying spiritual death. He moves and thinks like a zombie within God's presence. This is at a low vibration. This is you at your dead self. This is the valley of the dry bones. This is those that lie dead in the market street for 3.5 days, as it talks about in the book of Revelation. It's talking about a spiritual death. You were spiritually dead, but you were going to be reawakened. Man blind to spiritual realities and verities, as well as his divine potential, relies excessively on irreligious science and unscientific religion. Basically, stuff that doesn't show the cause and effect and how it works. Just basically, I read this, you take my word for it, my interpretation, let's move on. But don't show you the dual side of the meaning of it. Basically, is what it's talking about. That's what it means by the unscientific religion, basically doesn't show you the consistency and pattern of why and the what, which dulls as well and stimulates his mind and emotions with an artificial, mechanized way of life that degrades the soul. This is what we're seeing right here in Mystery Babylon right now. I'm going to just keep reading this. Life is reality, and those seeking the larger life must labor in the vineyard of the soul to awaken the consciousness of God's kingdom. What does it say in the Bible? What did Jesus say to the Pharisee? He says, everybody's waiting for this kingdom to come out the sky. He said, it's not the kind which you think. He said, it is in yourself. It's in one's mind. This is why nobody understood the Messiah in his time, because these secret teachings. But he taught these. That's why, everybody that spoke of things like these were eventually killed. All of the apostles were eventually killed or died off, and there's so much other secret knowledge that they don't tell us. But when you actually read this stuff, it makes more sense when you go back and read it in the Bible. It says, life is realities, and those seeking the larger life must labor in the vineyard of the soul to awaken the consciousness of God's kingdom, which is in your body, your temple. Everything temporal and fleeting is unreal. Nothing in this three-dimensional reality is absolute reality, because everything is in a state of flux of becoming. The real remains constant. The reliance on situations, relationships, and objects in this false world for one's mental and emotional well-being and security eventually breaks the balance of body, mind, and soul, resulting in discord, sickness, and misery. So basically, you become what you think. You are what you eat. Basically, this is the cause and effect of reflecting your thoughts and your emotions, your mentalism, and then your emotional state when the two become one. So it's magical stuff happening every day that you're doing. You don't even realize. But that's why the Bible says, work out your own salvation with fear and trembling. If you don't have all the tools at your disposal, and know how the workers of iniquity work, how is no weapon formed against you going to prosper? So there's so many things being left out that can better help you understand. You have to, if the Bible tells you about the eternal God, you would have to know how the eternal God works, right? But they always make you believe at a God outside of yourself, a heaven outside of yourself, a place where you go when you die, because man, like it said in this book, man cannot comprehend those type of things, It says, the soul resulting in discord, sickness, and misery. Illness is the absence of life's abundance force. God is life. Life is in man's physical vessel, the host, the temple, is found in the blood. What did I read in the book, The Nine Ether? I did a couple lessons back. It said that the spirit is housed in the blood because there is plasma. The plasma that comes off the sun is alive with electrolytes and rays. It is an energy source. Your spirit is an energy. It lives within your blood. That's why drinking blood and blood sacrifices are forbidden in the Torah, We're going to make it all make sense. It says, God is life, and life is in man's physical vessel, is found in the blood. You see how simple that sounds? And people probably wouldn't be able to comprehend it. But if you've been following me long enough, you know exactly what this means. We just making it make more sense, and we connecting the dots, and we seeking until we find, and we study until we show ourselves approved, and we find the consistency and the pattern, because that's where the truth lies. Denying God's existence both within and without us is denying the very base of our being, the very life force of our being. Now let's put the camera back on here for some more. According to one school of thinking, disintegration occurs on a spiritual level to all of the principles or components that make up man If denial is a persistent state of incarnation after incarnation, the closest such an unlucky human might approach to the life essence, hence God, in order to survive spiritually, is through bloodshed. This outlines the heinous acts of individuals who practice blood sacrifices, vampirism, and murder. That's the dark art. Matter presents a significant challenge to the ego. If it provides resistance to its etherization, ether again, control of which honors man with the unfoldment of Christhood. That is the Christos, the Christ consciousness. No other being can do this on our behalf. We brought this circumstance on ourselves by demanding free will in higher planes of existence. It is man's job and privilege to preserve his soul in order to gain a richer existence, a greater consciousness, a greater state of being, and to secure a permanent place in God's kingdom as a pillar of perfection. He who is near me is near the flame, and he who is far from me is far from the kingdom. Abid saying number 86. The fire in this context refers to the spark of God within man's heart. And you see how I wrote right here: blood pumps, ether, plasma, spirit, divine spark. Just writing notes based upon what I'm reading and highlighting from what I already know for confirmation. So when I go back into those other books, I can put this all together in a bigger portfolio. It said the fire in this context refers to the spark of God within man's heart. You know, the heart chakra is green. Green deals with love. And what does the Messiah tell you to do? It tells you to love. It's one of the commandments and the laws. And when you go into green, plasma, when you look at the northern lights, the aurora borealis is green. It's green as plasma in the sky. It says this spark represents the heavenly part of man encased in matter, meaning a physical body. It is the source of life within the body and correlates to the sun in the solar system. Remember, I did a video on this. Well, let's finish reading this stuff. To the sun in the solar system. This flame is described by Hindu mystics as celestial being meditating at the heart of Anahata chakra, which is the heart chakra, which is green. And I wrote right here, aurora borealis, northern lights, in ether. You know, this holy spark is known as Dahara, which means minuscule with radiant overtones. And then it goes into encyclopedia, talks about yoga, because believe it or not, yoga, when you do certain body movements, it makes the blood circulate a different way. The energy and frequencies going through your body that are connected to the ether and the ley lines, when you move in a certain position and you hum or you say a specific sound and vibration of holiness, it unlocks. That's why when people go to these spiritual sites, they normally they say mantras or they use sound frequencies to unlock portals or these secret places, you know, stuff that they put in movies like Indiana Jones, you know, stuff like that's down there in the South America at the Mayan ruins and certain places in Egypt. You can't access it. Like they said that there's tunnels under the Sphinx. And, you know, I was listening to another brother, Billy Carson. He was talking about how it's an empty space down there. It's a cavern. There's a ship down there. And anybody that can connect their mind to this ship will not be able to be defeated. I actually believe that, because once I start looking into this other information and study, I realize all the stuff that you've been seeing in movies actually really exists. It's just been locked away for the right time. Just like I was saying right here. It says right here, the heavenly part of man, encased in matter. It is the source of life within the body that correlates to the sun and the solar system. The sun is the central star of the solar system. The sun is what produces all life on the planet, to all living organisms, the microorganisms, as above, so below. The macroprosophis above, the microprosophis below. The sun is the life giver to all living organisms. And the sun produces plasma. Like I was telling you, there's plasma in our DNA. What does it say over here? It says God is life, and life is in man's physical vehicle, is found in the blood. And it also says that in the Nine Ether book. It talks about the spirit being in the blood. It has something to do with plasma and the DNA, the genetic makeup. And back to this, the sun. The sun in the greater and lesser keys of Solomon's is called Shemesh. Noah had 3 sons, Ham, Shem, and Japheth. Shem was where the Israelites came from, which I call the spiritual lights. There's so much more to the story. The original name of Africa was Ethiopia. Ether people, meaning the children of the sun, the Shemeshes. Just like people say Israel is in the Middle East, but Israel is northeast Ethiopian, which we now call Northeast Africa, but now what the colonizers call the Middle East. They're good with whitewashing stuff and putting things in reverse, but that's why in a lot of the ancient times, maybe not even too long ago, that's why they burnt a lot of books. That's why they hung a lot of our people. They called them witches, because all what people think is witches now, these are people that were like Gnostics. These are people that were in tune with nature. That's why they call them witch doctors, because they had a potion. They had a natural remedy from nature that in that time, it made it seem like it was magical, because they knew how the human anatomy worked and how nature correlated with the body when you use the right herbs and spices and you put them to your blood, just like we were made from the clay or the dirt of the ground, the same place where the herbs that heal our bodies come from too. That's why I say you have to be in tune with nature. That the mother nature, the divine feminine, the Abba's wife, where that he impregnated in the womb of the earth and created mankind. In the beginning, Elohim said, let us create them in our image. Can't nobody refute that. Somebody please explain that to me. Why does it say that? In the English Bible, it says, yeah, God, in the beginning, God said. When you go in the original text, it says Elohim. What's Elohim? Plural. What does plural mean? More than one. And then it goes on in the next couple lines, it says us, in our image. Who's us and who's our? Nobody can say nothing to me if you can't even get past the first couple lines in the Bible, They already tripped you up with that, And how are you going to break down all of these other scriptures? The same stuff you demonize is tarot and everything else. You don't even realize it comes from the Torah, And that's why when you go in these churches, it tells you that the law is done away with. But the Messiah said, I have not come to destroy the law, but to fulfill the law. The law is forever. The law is cause and effect of our behavior, the do's and the don'ts, which brings us judgment and salvation. That's why we as individuals have to work out our own salvation with fear and trembling, because God is eternal. It's in us. We work, we follow the laws of nature, and we reach our higher self in a pure state and be in tune with nature, which they make you think is bad, which they'll call you a witch or some crazy stuff. Or they say because you got these symbols on, which are just Hebrew symbols and Hebrew letters in the form of mathematics, is magneticism, what people ignorantly call magic. It means the engineer. That's why the Messiah said he was a carpenter. I showed that in the last couple lessons I did out of the 9 Ether book and the I believe Tahuti mathematics. You know, I showed you these symbols. These are just equations. They're Hebrew symbols and circles, 360 degrees. What is 3 and 6? 9. 9 is completion of the cycle. That's why you see most of the planets, everything is in round balls. This, you know? All you gotta do is follow the consistency and pattern. It's right there in our faces. I hope this made sense to y'all. Y'all bless. Salah. And so be it. I'm out. Love y'all.